Good morning, I'm Gretchen Hall. It is a Tuesday, the 17th day of June, bringing Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. The Senate Impeachment Court has formally received the entry of appearance from the law firm Fortun, Narvasa and Salazar, which will represent Vice President Sara Duterte. A total of 16 lawyers have been listed as her legal counsel in the impeachment proceedings. Iran calls on U.S. President Donald Trump to push for a ceasefire, warning that retaliation will continue unless Israel stops its strikes. At the same time, a Filipina in Israel remains critical after Iran's airstrikes. NAIA airport taxi drivers caught overcharging passengers, some demanding thousands for a short ride. We'll talk about this and other transportation concerns with DOTR Secretary Vince Dizon later in the program. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, Vice President Sara Duterte has a 16-member legal team defending her before the Senate Impeachment Court. According to court spokesperson Reginald Tongol, a document indicating the formal entry of Duterte's lawyers was submitted to the Senate Impeachment Court on Monday. Listed as Duterte's defense lawyers are Philip Fortun, Gregorio Narvasa, Sheila Sison, Carlo Narvasa, Roberto Batombacal, Justin Gular, Lyndon Baquel, David Gola, Maria Fortun, Clarraine Radok, Francesca Flores, Miguel Fernandez, Michael Powa, Reynold Munsayak, Mark Veluan, and Ralph Bodota. Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro criticized Vice President Sara Duterte for spreading disinformation after Duterte again claimed she and outgoing ACT Teachers Representative Franz Castro are cousins. In a weekend interview, Duterte said that nothing good could come from the two Castros and repeated her claim that they are cousins. Castro said it is alarming when the Vice President herself spreads false information. She also cited Duterte's previous misleading statements about President Marcos, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and the claim that the 20 pesos per kilo rice was only fit for pigs.
Nagiging source of fake news.
In an exclusive interview, President Bongbong Marcos says he doesn't tolerate underperformance, even among close friends. Cheryl Cosim with the story.
When we sat down with President Bongbong Marcos in a podcast interview, one side of him surfaced, a strict chief executive in control of his administration. Someone who does not do double takes with those who are not able to perform. This, the president said, is the reason behind the recent review of government officials.
Ayoko talaga yung business as usual. Kasi ang dami natin problema. Naging problema yan kasi business as usual tayo. Ngayon, mula ngayon, talagang we will be very, very, very conscientious of hitting our targets on time.
And to hit these targets, Marcos maintained he would not hesitate to remove officials from his administration, even his friends, if they fail to deliver.
Hindi naman ito tungkol sa pagkakaibigan ng pagmamahal natin sa isa't isa kung hindi para sa serbisyo, para sa tao.
Speaking of palitan, hindi naririnig, hindi na ilalabas, pero siguro sa mas mababang mga posisyon, marami na po ba kayong napalitan doon sa loob ng 3 taon?
Marami na. Marami na. Hindi na lang namin ina-announce kasi just get ako trabaho to just if you're not helping, get out of the way. Okay? Kung di mo kami tutulungan, basta malis ka na lang dito. Gawin mo yung gusto mong gawin, pero pabayaan mo kami magtrabaho. Whatever it is, basta just get out of the way so that I can do my job.
President Marcos also insisted he does not just read accomplishment reports. He wants to be sure. That's why he personally visits government projects. Recall that he recently rode the MRT, went to markets and to Kadiwa venues, and personally visited Siquijor province, which is in a state of calamity due to massive brownouts.
It's very different to receive, makatanggap ka ng report na sasabihin, natapos namin yung project, ganito yung ginastos namin, may picture na maganda. Pero pag pinuntahan mo, iba. Iba talaga. So it's still important to go and see things for yourself.
Halfway before the end of his term, Marcos Jr. has only one thing he wants to achieve: to be remembered for bringing meaningful improvements to the lives of Filipinos.
The one thing you absolutely want to be remembered for.
We made a change for the better. This has been my guide in all the positions I've taken. The worst thing that can happen is umupo ka doon sa position mo, na nagsilbi ka, umalis ka, walang pinagbago. So I absolutely insist that in 2028, when I leave this office, there are significant and tangible changes for the better in the life of each Filipino.
I'm Cheryl Cosim. We are One News.
Iran is pressing U.S. President Donald Trump to intervene and stop Israeli attacks. Meanwhile, a Filipina in Israel is in critical condition after Iran's airstrikes. Here is a report.
Iran is urging U.S. President Donald Trump to push for a ceasefire, warning it will continue retaliating unless Israeli strikes stop. Tehran has reached out to Gulf nations, including Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Oman, to press the U.S. for action. The appeal comes as Israel intensifies attacks, damaging Natanz, Iran's largest uranium enrichment facility. Iran says over 220 of its citizens, mostly civilians, have been killed as airstrikes pound cities across the country. While Israel claims its goal is to dismantle Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities, Tehran threatens a larger counterattack unless the U.S. intervenes. Meanwhile, Philippine Ambassador to Israel Eileen Menjola confirmed that one overseas Filipino worker is in critical condition and receiving close medical attention after sustaining injuries from Iran's airstrikes.
I actually visited one critical case. It's in Rehovot, and the hotel that I visited is one of the best hospitals for trauma care. And this particular kababayan, she's also an OFW. She's over 40 years old. She has her sister, and her sister was actually present when we visited her. And she's strapped in the most high-tech equipment that you can imagine because her lungs actually gave out.
The DMW is also on heightened alert, while the Philippine Embassy in Tel Aviv remains closed. There are over 30,000 Filipinos in Israel, and authorities say they are ready to assist those who wish to return home.
We always stand ready for any eventuality, including mass repatriation. We will work closely with the DFA and the Israeli authorities on this matter. And well, considering na sarado yung airport doon, we will time the departure from Israel, the repatriation of our kababayans.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after a quick break. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Filipino mountaineers Geno Panganiban and Miguel Mapalad recently reached the summit of Mount Everest. The feat marks the first time in 18 years that Filipinos have conquered the world's highest peak. Panganiban and Mapalad said all the preparation and sacrifice were worth it to achieve such a milestone. The duo is now recovering and expected to rest for several weeks before planning their next expedition. And joining us today to share more about his journey to the Mount Everest is Geno Panganiban. Good morning. Welcome to our show.
Good morning, Ms. Gretchen, and good morning to our viewers.
Okay, of
Thank
course,
you for having
it's
us
not
here.
just you, but also Miguel and
Yes.
also Rick.
Yes.
Tatlong mga Pilipino nakaakyat sa tuktok ng Mount Everest. First of all, how are you? How are you after that expedition? Have you recovered already?
So after that expedition, we were really blessed to have come home safe and complete. Now, we're just recovering for a few more weeks, then back to training na next month.
Pag sinabi mong complete, I mean kayong tatlo, magkakasama kasi kayo?
No, Miguel and I are in the same team, and Rick was in a different expedition team.
Oo.
Complete by meaning I still have my toes and fingers.
Oh, okay. Kasi we do know that there was a Filipino who passed away. That's
Yes,
PJ
yes,
Santiago.
yes,
And
yes.
nakausap nga namin si Ana, yung kanyang
Yes,
kapatid. Ano?
yes.
Hindi kayo sabay-sabay na umakyat. Naabutan mo ba si PJ?
No, hindi namin siya naabutan, but we were in the base camp at the same time. PJ and Rick was approaching for a different summit window. So, PJ was going for the 14th of May, I think, and si Rick 15th. Then kami ni Miguel, nag-push kami for a safer window sa May 18.
Okay, how many months or years did you prepare for this expedition to Mount Everest?
So we started yung yung realistic and actual training na since last year when I summited an 8,000-meter peak din sa Nepal that was the 8th highest mountain in the world, Mount Manaslu. So doon I was exposed to the death zone, sa paggamit ng supplemental oxygen, sa deep snow. So, more than a month ako sa bundok. Then, doon na-build yung mental toughness ko and yung knowledge ko for a high-altitude expedition. And kami naman ni Miguel, and 2 weeks after that, kami ni Miguel, nag-climb kami sa isa din technical peak sa Nepal called Amadablam na mas technical pa sa Mount Everest. So, talagang na-train kami for that. And we had different climbs after that. And come April, pumunta na kami sa Nepal for Everest.
Nung bata ka pa ba, pangarap mo na talagang umakyat ng Everest? Or nung umakyat ka ng mga bundok na yan, ay kaya eh?
Actually, hindi pa eh. It took me years of climbing experience for me to dream about Mount Everest. Nung bata pa kasi ako, nag-start ako third year college, 2016. Ano pa lang ako, parang nag-explore pa lang, try ng mga different mountains sa Philippines. Tapos until I fell in love with it, took me a lot of time to fall in love with it. So,
With the idea of climbing Everest?
Yeah.
Especially with the things that we've heard. I mean, it has taken so many lives, the mountain itself.
Yes.
Buti hindi ka natakot.
hindi siya biro at hindi siya para sa lahat, no. Pero pinangarap kasi, and I have to face this fear.
So it's mostly you against yourself when you're
Yes.
climbing that mountain.
Yes.
Well, tell us about the most difficult part of the expedition.
I think the most difficult part is the acclimatization because it's a long process of understanding your body and how your body adapts to the environment. So, parang make or break yan eh. Kakayanin ba ng katawan mo yung elevation, yung lamig.
Kailangan kilala mo yung sarili mo.
Yeah,
And how to adjust.
Yeah, kasi your body will suffer. Sasakit ang ulo mo, magsusuka ka, diarrhea.
All of that happened to you?
No, not naman.
Oh.
Parang,
Pag hindi ka okay.
Ako, based sa experience ko, yung problem ko kasi is, matinding ubo. Feel ko ayoko na ng lalamunan ko, ganon. Pero in some cases, yung mga nakakasama ko din sa expedition team, yun nga, hindi na sila nakakatulog, sakit ng
Paano kayo
ulo.
nagsi-CR?
Sa base camp, meron kaming toilet tent. So,
But before that, I mean, everything else while you're climbing, because it takes long, right?
yeah, from the starting point, Lukla, that's where the most dangerous airport is. We will hike for 8 days to Everest Base Camp. Meron kaming mga tea houses doon, mga tirahan ng mga Sherpa yan. So, nagsistay kami doon. Doon meron kaming kama, CR, warm siya. So, pero pagdating sa base camp, nababawasan na yung luxury namin eh. So, meron lang kaming toilet tent. So, lahat ng mga tao dun sa expedition team, doon nagsi-CR sa toilet tent namin.
And with how many climbers are you with in this season?
Sa buong expedition, umabot ng 400 plus.
Wow, ang dami.
Pero sa team namin, nasa 100 plus kami. We were with the Chinese, Russians, Polish climbers.
How did you join this team?
Famous yung team na yun for, big expeditions.
And then they train you
Yes,
along
yes.
with the
Yes,
whole
yes,
journey?
yes.
Okay.
And then yung training, yung mentorship, lahat, they make sure na we are safe and alagaan kami. So, there.
And then after going to the first base camp,
Yes.
how long does it take to get the next? Camp 2 na ba yun?
Camp 1 muna.
Camp 1
so,
muna.
from base camp, you will cross the dangerous Khumbu Icefall. So, it's an icefall located at the highest glacier on the Earth. And itong icefall na to, composed siya ng mga serak, mga ice tower, and crevasse. So, from base camp to Camp 1, problem solving yan. Gagamitin mo yan, gagamitan ng mga technical skills yan. And it's constantly moving and growing. And the best time to approach it is gabi, where the snow and ice is its coldest. Kasi pag umaga,
Pwede mag-melt.
pwede
maging
mag-melt.
fragile.
So, doon tataas yung chance of avalanche.
Ay, grabe.
Yes.
And then that's also a deadly portion.
That's the deadliest portion.
Even deadlier than Camp 3?
Yung Camp 3 kasi, you could survive it with supplemental oxygen na. And yes, it's gagamit ka pa rin ng equipment to climb, pero it's not as risky
As technical.
sa Khumbu Icefall. So yung kalaban mo na lang sa Camp 3, Camp 4, and to the summit is the altitude.
What's the temperature like as you go up to the summit?
So, base camp to Camp 1, medyo mga negative 20 lang, kaya pa. Ang mindset namin doon is, we have to finish this. Gabi namin ina-approach, so hindi namin kita yung mga bangin eh. Pero nung pababa,
Kinakabahan na ako, kinukwento mo pa.
nung pababa na kami, nakita na namin lahat. So, Camp 1 is at 6,100 meters. Then from Camp 1 to Camp 2, dadaan ka pa din sa glaciers, but it's more friendly. Kasi malayo na sa'yo yung mga walls. So, less risk of avalanche there. Camp 2 is at 6,500 meters. From Camp 2, napapalibutan ka na ng 3 matataas na bundok. That's Everest, Lhotse, and Nuptse. And from Camp 2 to Camp 3,
What's the temperature at Camp 2?
negative 20 to 25.
Okay. And then at Camp 3?
As you approach Camp 3, mas napapansin mo na parang tumatarik na yung yung snow. So medyo humihirap na siya, medyo bumabagal na kami. So
hindi ka tumitingin sa baba?
Base camp to Camp 1, iniiwasan kong tumingin sa baba kasi bangin talaga eh. So you just have to trust your equipment. You just have to trust yung tali and yung ladders. And yung ladder, alam mo naman, talagang gumagalaw yan. Tapos, from Camp 1 to Camp 2, medyo patag na siya na glacier. So, parang highway na siya. So, parang nakahinga ka na onte. Gusto mo na lang i-push to Camp 2. Then, from Camp 2 to Camp 3, it's still wide, pero mas nasa mainit na part na kami ng expedition. So, it's still cold, pero mas exposed na kami sa araw. Kasi nasa parang frying pan kami. Ang tinatawag nila doon is frying pan. So, akit kami hanggang 7,100 meters.
At pagdating mo sa Camp 3,
Pagdating sa Camp 3, since hanggang doon lang yung acclimatization point namin, sa Camp 3 lang, doon na kami gumamit ng supplemental oxygen. So, yun yung first night na natulog kami with supplemental oxygen.
okay, and what was the temperature? Camp 3?
Almost same as Camp
20 to
2.
25. Negative to
20 to
25.
25.
And over at the summit, what was the temperature?
Over at the summit, so from Camp 3, punta muna kami ng Camp 4.
May Camp 4 pa.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, yun yung tinatawag nilang South Call. So, sa Camp 4, so imagine, umalis kami ng Camp 3 mga 5 a.m. of May 17. And then, we reached Camp 4 around 2 p.m. That's 7,950 meters. So, yun na yung death zone. And hindi kami makapagtayo ng tent kasi sobrang lakas ng hangin. So, when we actually pitched our tent, mga 4 p.m. pa kami nakapag-pitch.
So, uupo lang kayo sa tabi?
Lang kami doon, parang nagkapit busy kami para itayo yung tent namin. Kasi sobrang lakas talaga ng hangin, no? Nung mga panahon na yun. Nung unang balita sa amin is may magkakaroon ng snowstorm, kailangan namin bumaba sa Camp 3 ulit. Pero, nung tinignan namin yung forecast, mawawala yung malakas na hangin around 6 p.m. So, we waited it out. May 17, 6 p.m. So, lang kami, higa lang kami, no sleep at all. Wala pa kaming food and wala kaming mais na tubig. Kasi medyo naumay na kami sa lasa ng snow water nung mga panahon na yun eh. And then, 6 p.m. ng May 17, nag-push na kami for the summit. Tapos, doon na kami inabutan we spent the night at the trail. Doon na din kami inabutan ng sunrise. And then,
At what time did you get to the summit?
around 6:30 a.m.
And how was it like? Finally standing there
For me, it's
at the top of the world.
It's an uncomparable feeling kasi I can't compare this to any other mountain kasi Everest na yung pinakamataas eh. And nung nasa summit na ako, nakita ko na yung curvature ng Earth. So, medyo nagsisink in na yung pagiging Everest
Naiiyak ka na, naalala mo.
Naiiyak na nga ako eh. Every time I think about it. Nakita ko na yung curvature ng Earth, then yung realization ko na nasa tuktok na ako ng mundo, na nasa highest point na ako ng mundo. Mas mataas na ako sa kahit anong bagay, kahit sinong tao at mga hayop. Pero, mabilis lang yung moment na yun kasi...
How many minutes are you allowed to enjoy that moment given that there are 400 climbers in the season?
Including their guides.
Oo.
So, mga nasa 700 kami nung panahon na
So,
yun.
ilang minutes pwede?
Hindi naman sa pwede or bawal, pero mas pipiliin mong hindi na lang din magtagal. Because, for me, I didn't stay more than 20 minutes. Maybe just around 15 minutes. Kasi it was freezing cold. Negative 40 na. And we were experiencing 80 kilometers per hour winds at that time. So, kung mag-video man kami, hindi na din marinig kasi ang lakas ng hangin, sobra. And we were running on supplemental oxygen.
Kinaya pa ng gadgets nyo at negative 40?
Surprisingly, yes.
And what was the feeling like? I mean, inside, nararamdaman pa rin ng katawan yung lamig?
Yes. And nung kinuwento ko nga kanina, no, sobrang daming tao, traffic, na idle kami. So, pag di kami gumagalaw, minsan hindi ko na maramdaman yung fingers and toes ko. So, kailangan galawin ng galawin.
And going down, what was, I mean, looking back at everything that you did, hindi biro yun. Nakataya talaga, literal, yung buhay mo sa ginawa mo. Ano yung mga realization mo? I mean, una-una, who is this expedition for? Sino maaaring sumunod sa inyong mga yapak? At pangalawa, worth it ba lahat? I mean, lahat ng gastos, lahat ng oras, lahat ng pagod, lahat ng risk na yon. And what does it tell you about your life?
So, going back to your first question, no, going down, it was the hardest part kasi ano na kami, we were famished, exhausted, and dehydrated, and bugbog na yung katawan namin, and mas conscious na kami ngayon sa oxygen level, lalo na nung pababa, no? And doon na namin nakita yung dumami na yung bodies on the trail. So,
As in bodies, as in namatay?
yes. So, coming down from the summit, mas madami na yung namatay kasi mas marami namamatay ng pababa. So, exiting Everest, doon namin naramdaman ni Miguel na, wow, we were so blessed to have come alive, come out alive.
And speaking of Miguel, he joins us now in the studio. Nakakit na siya ng Mount Everest at lahat-lahat pero walang makakatakas sa traffic ng Pilipinas. Oo, welcome. Okay, I want to throw that question to you. I mean, kamusta yung feeling, no? Pakiramdam doon sa summit? At pagbaba mo, weeks later, what goes on in your mind? Going back at everything you've gone through to get there.
Oo, una-una yung pakiramdam, no, pag-abot ng summit kasi it was a long time dream, no, to reach summit. Yung reaching before the summit, yun yung medyo dramatic part para sa akin. Oo, kasi konting steps na lang maabot ko na yung pangarap ko, madadala ko na yung flag natin to sa tuktok. And then when I reached the summit, kailangan kong bumaba agad, naisip ko kasi mas delikado pala pag pababa, no? 90% or 80% ng mga disgrasya nangyayari pababa. So, wala na masyadong drama, wala na masyadong
Kasi
ngitian.
madulas, tama ba?
Usually, napapagod, tapos kailangan naming habulin yung laman ng aming oxygen tank.
Oh.
Kaya mas delikado po pagka pababa na.
Nakita niyo yung mga bodies. I mean, how many passed away in this climbing season? At babalik ko lang no kay PJ. Kailan niyo nalaman na may nangyaring masama
So,
sa kanya?
nung May 15 ng madaling araw, we were set to push for the summit. We left base camp at that time. And come May 15 morning, ready na kami ni Miguel to congratulate him, no? Pero may nakasalubong akong friend ko from the Chinese team. Sabi niya, meron silang nakitang 40-plus-year-old na Filipino who died at Camphor. Then, right there and then, talagang heartbreaking siya.
After you went down na from the summit?
No, paakyat
lang kayo.
Tapos, sinabi ko kanina na nag-push sila for an earlier summit push. So, dapat pababa na sila.
Okay.
Yeah, tapos kami paakyat pa lang.
Oo.
Yeah.
Kayo naman, ano yung pinaka challenging part para sa inyo? I mean, climbing, doing this. Ano yung tumatakbo sa isip nyo? Going through lahat ng mga bangin, lahat ng mga delikado, lahat ng yung buong hirap na yun.
Oo. Siyempre, ang challenging para sa akin, no? Para sa amin lahat na aakit ng Everest doon is yung Kumbu Ice Fall. No? Isa yun sa talagang nakakatakot na area doon sa pag-akit ng Everest. Talagang dadaanan mo yan, hindi lang isang beses, 4 na beses. No? Kaya, ayun, talagang kailangan namin magmadali, kailangan namin ng tapang talaga para tumawid doon. Pero ayun, nalagpasan naman namin. And yung next siguro is yun nga, yung makakita ka ng mga dead body sa trail.
Bilang panghuli, no, anong susunod para sa inyo? Meron pa ba kayong mountain na gustong makonquer? At pangalawa, para sa mga gustong umakyat ng Everest, magkano ba ang hinabot nyo? What does it take to get there?
Yung next project namin, Miss Gretchen, is the second highest mountain naman, no? Everest was the pace setter for us. Pero yung next target namin, ito na yung grand, kumbaga. So that's the second highest mountain, K2 or yung Savage Mountain. That's in Pakistan.
Ayun nga, mahirap.
Yes.
Mapapanood kayo sa mga
Technical siya.
documentary.
That will be in June of next year. That's the climbing season. Pero tatry pa namin umakyat ng isa pa this September.
Nakaka-addict yata,
Sobrang
yung high?
nakaka-addict, yeah.
Oo.
So kailangan, ang goal namin is to complete all the 14 8,000 meter peaks sa buong mundo.
But how much does it cost?
To climb Mount Everest, nag-range from pinakamababa siguro 2 million to 7 million.
So mag-iipon muna kami. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us and congratulations,
Thank you, ma'am.
Miguel and Jeno, for making it to the top of the world and making us proud as Filipinos na naitayo natin ang ating bandera muli. We have Filipino mountaineers Jeno Panganiban and Miguel Mapalad joining us today on Morning Matters. Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back right after a quick break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Noan here on Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. The taxi driver who charged 1,200 pesos for a short trip from NAIA Terminal 2 to 3 may soon lose more than his license. This as his entire company could be shut down. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon revealed that Taxi Hub Transport was found operating under an expired provisional authority. He said the firm's whole fleet is effectively colorum. The LTFRB is set to issue a show cause order and may revoke the company's franchise. A full crackdown on overcharging taxis at NAIA is also underway. Now, from overcharging airport taxis to the EDSA rehabilitation plan, the Transportation Department is in the spotlight, and we speak with Secretary Vince Dizon on the recent controversies and what's being done to fix the country's transport woes. Welcome to Morning Matters, finally.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Sobrang
Sorry.
busy nyo eh.
Pasensya na.
Lagi kayo
Oo.
tumatakbo. Okay, simulan po natin doon sa issue na yun, overcharging sa NAIA.
Yes.
Sabi niyo po, hindi na po ito bago. We've seen it time and time again. But what could be done? On the other hand, kabuhayan. On the other hand naman, it also turns off a lot of tourists.
You know what's sad, Gretchen, is that, we've all experienced it. I mean, I've experienced it, when I was studying, when I was working, especially during the rainy season, you flag a cab and then you're wet in the rain and you're desperate and the cab says, "Ay boss, wala nang metro ano na lang, 500 na lang papunta dito, 1,000 na lang papunta dito." And you're desperate, you just take it, right? I mean, it's part of daily struggles na ng mga tao, ng mga commuter natin na unfortunately tinatanggap na lang. Pero ang hindi ko lang maintindihan, lalo na ngayon, with all the modern technology that's available, you already have the TNVS groups, Grab, etc. Bakit tuloy-tuloy pa rin? Bakit parang hindi natututo yung mga taxi drivers natin at taxi operators natin na hindi nila pwedeng abusuhin yung mga kababayan
Pero
natin?
pag pumupunta kami doon, parang mas marami na rin talagang enforcers doon. So,
Marami, pero, meron pa rin.
Oo.
No, meron pa rin. So, I think it all boils down to enforcement. And taxi drivers and operators and others don't feel that they can be held to account whenever they do these things.
but what's the plan of
So the
DOT?
plan is to hold them to account, not to really make them fear that if they do something wrong, if they abuse our commuters, that there will be severe consequences. And the example of Taxi Hub is an example of that. That the driver's license has now been suspended. It will most likely be revoked, meaning hindi na siya makakapagmaneho ulit. No, wala siyang kabuhayan. Masakit yun. No, mahirap ang buhay ngayon, pero wala tayong magagawa. And then, as we found out yesterday, the operator was running these taxis with an expired franchise since March of 2025. So again, that taxi company will lose its franchise because of this and may never run a taxi company again. So, and this is my message to everyone in the sector, that the president is very serious in enforcing and sanctioning those who violate the law. And you will lose your license, you will lose your franchise, and you will lose your livelihood. I don't think they want that. So let's just do things as they should be done, and let's stop abusing passengers. We're going to start cracking down in NAIA, and we're going to work with San Miguel. We're going to work with the PNP stationed in NAIA, and we're gonna make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Na matakot sila.
Kailangan matakot eh. Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. Ang problema in the past, hindi natatakot. Kaya tuloy-tuloy yung ganito.
Okay. Talking about accountability, you've gone around sacking officers of the LTO. Yung isa is over an alleged assault of a minor and
Yes.
another person in a karaoke lounge. Another one for involvement in a vehicular crash while appearing to be drunk.
Yes.
Speaking of laws, I mean, if you take a look at both incidents, this is their personal time. What are transport officials allowed to do, not to do in their own time?
Well, they're not allowed to drive drunk, and they're not allowed to kick someone in the stomach,
Okay.
especially a minor. I mean, they can do whatever they want as long as they don't break the law, Gretchen. No, so.
But
government
but
officials-
losing their jobs over these incidents.
I think that's the minimum. You know, if you are a government official, and if you all of us in government, we swear an oath, right, to uphold the laws, to follow the laws, to protect our people, to serve our people. If you don't do that, there are consequences, Gretchen. Losing your job for kicking a minor is the minimum consequence. You know, and that's why we're talking to the victims there, and we're saying, we'll help you if you want to file the cases. We'll help you file the cases. If you're an LTO official and you are caught drunk driving, I mean, you know, losing your position is a minimum. No, I mean, we are all should be held to a higher standard if you work in government. And you know, drunk driving, if you're an LTO official, is really totally unacceptable.
You have 3 years in your stay at the DOTR. Are you looking to have that firm hand across all parts of the transportation system? And kayo na rin po ang umamin, yung regulatory function ng, for one, LTO, hindi ganun ka parang sinsin pagdating sa pag-a-apply ng mga lisensya, pag-a-apply ng mga prangkisa sa LTFRB. I mean, how will you apply that firm hand?
Well, I hope what we're trying to do now by acting swiftly on the reports, and I just want to thank all of our citizens, you know, who bravely report this, they video, and they tag us. I encourage them to keep on doing that. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about consequences. We will protect you. But I think hopefully by doing this and doing it consistently, this will send a very strong message to everyone in government that this will no longer be tolerated.
Paano yung mga nakakakuha ng lisensya kahit hindi sila nag-exam o pumapasa sa mga test na
Alam mo, Gretchen, no? I'm sure
lagay-lagay lang?
you probably heard about this. No, we started and we are still currently cracking down on fixers online. No, in fact, may pinresent kami sa publiko, isa sa mga nahuli natin, just to send a message. No, I don't want to keep on presenting people in public and shaming them, but we have to do it. No, to send a strong message that this can no longer be tolerated. Can you imagine sa Facebook gagamitin yung logo ng LTO at sasabihin doon, services offered, non-pro license without exam, 5,000. Professional license without practical test, 7,000. I mean, it's really,
Blatant display.
It's blatant display and talagang walang takot. And wala silang takot kasi meron silang kakonsyaba sa loob. Wala namang fixer kung walang kakonsyaba sa loob eh.
Ay, paano hahanapin yun?
Hahanapin natin yung mga yun. And I instructed Assistant Secretary Vigor to make sure na kapag merong nahuli dyan, tanggal sa trabaho. Tanggal sa trabaho, makakasuhan pa. No, that's the only way, Gretchen. That's the only way. Unfortunately, you know, fear must be instilled, and fear of the consequences, fear of losing your job, fear of a case being filed against you. In the past kasi, hindi nangyayari yan.
You've been in this job for 4 months already. Pagpasok po ninyo, ano nakita niyo yung pinakamalaking problema sa assessment ninyo?
Naku, Cisco, parang mahirap sagutin yun. I think, you know, DOTR is one of the biggest, the biggest agencies in government, just in terms of scope, no, and scale, no. I think the biggest challenge is more on the regulatory side rather than the implementation of the projects and fast tracking of the projects. That's difficult as well. There are a lot of challenges there, like right-of-way acquisition, and, you know, making sure contractors build on time, etc. No, but the biggest challenge to me, which to be quite honest, I did not expect. No. To be honest, when I came into this job, I thought I was just going to fast track the building of trains and fixing airports and all of
In
that.
the subway.
In
yeah,
the subway, but what really surprised me was really the difficulty in untangling the regulatory mess that the entire transport sector is in. No, and it's very hard. It's very hard. It's an entrenched.
What do you think can you do in
system.
3 years?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know what I
Mahirap
can
na
do.
tanong.
I don't know what I
Okay.
can do.
But so far, the road safety advocates love you. They say you're one of the most progressive officials that actually think about the commuter, the passenger. But there are those who say that what you're doing is addressing the low-hanging fruits. And you're good with optics. The president has adopted your style. What do you
Hindi
say
naman.
to that?
You know, I think, first of all, when I met the president for the first time, he told me, make the daily life of the commuter safe and more convenient. And I think that's what you just said, no? The proverbial low-hanging fruit. Yeah. They may seem small, but they're actually not. You know, they may seem small to a lot of people who don't go through this daily commuting grind day in and day out. But lines on the MRT, simple things like, you know, timers on the busway that don't work. These all matter. They matter a lot because they translate to time either lost or time saved for our people. And time is so important. You know, if for example, we tried to shorten the lines in the MRT. Small thing, you're right, very low-hanging fruit, but unfortunately, ang tagal na hindi na-address. But in terms of time saved for our people, ang laking bagay niyan. The difference between waiting in line for an hour versus waiting in line for 10 minutes, 15 minutes is huge in terms of what time you wake up, whether I'm going to see my child off to school or I have to leave before my child even wakes up, whether I can get home in time for dinner, spend some time with the family. It makes a huge difference, no, in the daily life of our people. So kung maibsan man lang natin, sabi nga ng Pangulo, no, kung maibsan man natin ang kahit konti yun, ang laking bagay nun. While we're doing the bigger
And
things.
speaking of doing the bigger things, so one of the projects at hand is the EDSA rehabilitation. What's the rationale behind that? Nakausap namin si Secretary Manny Bonoan, tinanong namin, ano bang mali sa EDSA, no? Bakit natin kailangan pagdaanan ito? Sabi niya, this is more than 50 years, yung huling rehabilitation, panahon ni Cory. Nung tinanong ko sa kanya, ano yung pinaka-urgent na sections ng EDSA? Sabi niya, yung buo. And he also said this was mostly about the pavement. Babaguhin natin yung pavement, konting work sa drainage. But it seems that, I mean, if we're going through the rehabilitation anyway, why can't this be a bigger project na baguhin natin yung mismong plano or mag-present tayo ng mas komprehensibong plano para sa EDSA?
Tingin ko yun po ang gusto ng Pangulo. No? Kaya nga niya pinose. Sabi niya, unang-una, 2 years is too long. Marami ng teknolohiya ngayon na ginagamit ng mga ibang bansa. Japan, China, Europe, etc. etc. Hindi natin pwedeng pahirapin yung mga kababayan natin ang 2 taon. And that's, I think, the first one. The second one, I think you're absolutely right. No? And I work a lot with Move as One, with Mr. Robbie C. and the team. And there's really a need to rethink EDSA as a major boulevard or major road in the country, not just in Metro Manila. Because EDSA is a symbol. It's not just a road. It's a symbol of what doesn't work and what could work if we do it the right way. You know? And one major thing there is really pedestrians and public transport. No? Kaya pinaglaban talaga natin na yung busway, kahit na i-rebuild ang EDSA, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yan nasa dedicated busway. But yung pedestrians, kailangan nating protektahan. And the President gave that instruction, gave that directive na we have to make the life of the pedestrian who, kasi unknown to many, maraming naglalakad sa EDSA. And I experienced it firsthand with Move as One. No? Ang daming naglalakad sa EDSA. Ang problema, talagang delikado, pwede kang mamatay pag naglalakad ka sa EDSA. So that needs to be fixed.
And what can you do with the current infrastructure? Because
You can widen it for one. You can widen it.
with the limited space.
Kaya eh. Kaya eh. I mean, we walked, well, Move as One walked up until Monumento from Ayala. I walked until Shaw Boulevard. Pwede.
Nakikitaan yun ng espasyo
pwede.
na pwede ma-widen
Pwede.
pa.
It's not gonna be, you know, like what
Will
we
that
see
take away the bike lanes? And speaking
Tingin ko
of that,
kaya nga shared eh. Shared pedestrian and bike. Kamukha nung nakikita na rin natin sa ibang bansa eh. Tingin ko of course, I'm not the one designing it. No, it's not DOTR that's designing it. It's DPWH. But I think it can be done.
But the president wants this done in 6 months. I mean, given that tight timeline.
Yeah, I think the sidewalk that will take longer kasi you have to fix also the drainage. But I think what the president wants done in 6 months is really the carriageway, yung dinadaanan ng mga sasakyan. No? Kailangan matapos yun para hindi maaberya yung traffic.
Bakit hindi nilang section by section as
Yun naman ang plano
has always been done?
Yun naman ang plano talaga section by section. Pero matagal pa rin 2 taon eh. So, yun ang sabi ng Pangulo. Hindi ako papayag, sabi ng Pangulo, hindi siya papayag ng 2 taon.
But marami nag-react dun sa odd-even scheme na plano. Yun ba ay may possibility na matutuloy? Because it's causing a lot of confusion.
In fairness naman sa MMDA, nung sinabi naman nila yung odd-even, ang tawag doon, ano pa lang, testing lang, pilot lang. No? Wagang huli, wagang ano, testingin lang kung talagang epektibo siya. Tingin ko naman kung hindi epektibo, hindi naman itutuloy yan. So we just have to
sabi
think
nila, baka bumili lang ng bagong sasakyan, yung mga mayayaman,
It's possible.
magsasuffer lang yung...
Dadami lang ang sasakyan. So it will get worse. So that's possible. Kaya nga I think paraan lang talaga ng MMDA yun na mag-isip ng mga solusyon. No? Kasi hindi biro yung original plan na 2 taon. So, pero ang maganda ngayon, may pause tayo. DPWH has to come up with a better plan, faster plan. MMDA and DOTR, we have to also look at other ways that we can alleviate this when it happens. So, when the rebuild happens. So, it's really just finding solutions to what the president wants to do, which is rebuild EDSA but not inconvenience the commuters and the motorists too much.
The NCAP has been running for several weeks, and some say that this is premature given the unsettled issues when it comes to first yung registration na who gets penalized over who gets caught. Pangalawa, yung speed of getting the tickets and informing the driver of their violation, and yung contesting mechanism. Where are we on that? Ano yung mga nakikita nating
I
balakid
think
sa ngayon?
MMDA is doing its best to fix the imperfections of the system because it's not a perfect system. No, there are a lot of things that need to be addressed, like simple markings on the road, for example, or street signs, making sure that you don't get caught if you're just avoiding a pothole, for example. No, but by and large, I think what NCAP does is it really changes driver behavior for the better. No, it makes drivers...
Kasi may takot, gaya na pag-usapan natin kanina.
It's all about enforcement kasi Gretchen, ang problema, unfortunately, sa atin is nasanay na tayong lahat. And when I say, I mean all of us, no, we've all been, not following rules at certain points in our lives, di ba? While we drive, when we commute, no. But that is the key. We need to address driver and motorist and rider and commuter behavior. No, and the NCAP is, I think, effective in that sense. It's not perfect. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed, and they must be fixed. But I think it's very important.
Pero yung ticketing, kailan kaya yun? I mean, like, in terms of that, what have you instructed the MMDA to do?
I have no authority over MMDA,
Okay.
Gretchen. No? But I think MMDA Chairman Artes again, is trying to address all the issues, all the questions on. I think they launched a website, for example, yesterday, which
Yung may huli ka.
people can go
Check
there
out,
and
yes.
check, fair ba ito? Tama ba na hinuli ako dito? And they can
Okay.
contest it. No? So I think these things, it will take some time to fix the problems of the system, but I think the system needs to be there.
Do you agree with the 30 kph proposal of the Department of Health?
You know, I was
Among
talking.
all roads.
I was talking to Robbie C. No, and if other countries that have done it have proven to, number one, reduce accidents on the road, especially fatal accidents, because what I understand is the science says that there is a very, very small chance of you getting killed if you get hit at 30 kilometers an hour. No, then I want to see that. I want to see the data. I want to see the best practices. And if it works, then, why not? Di ba? Why not? Why
Di
not
ba ang
be open
bagal
to
ng
it?
30 kph? Lalong-lalo na sa mga major highways katulad ng EDSA, ng Commonwealth. If the 60 kph is already working, ang bagal na 30. Hindi ba?
Well,
Yan ang speed sa village eh.
Yeah. I think hindi naman sinabi ni Robbie C na lahat. I don't know if that's what
Yesterday
they said.
I had him and sabi niya lahat daw. Oh.
Well, we have to study it. Again, ako, I'm a believer in if it works in other countries and it's effective, then we should take a look at it seriously. If it's something novel, if it's something na inimbento lang natin, then parang medyo pag-isipan muna natin ng mabuti yan. No?
Okay, let's go to the PUV modernization. You said that it is not viable in its current state with many drivers drowning in their debt. What's a good way forward? Tutuloy pa ba ito yung pag-consolidate, yung pag-push for modernization? In how can we make this more realistic for the drivers?
Tuloy na tuloy pa rin yan. No, lalo na dun sa mga operators and drivers natin na nag-modernize na, bumili na ng mga modern vehicles at ito nga, nahihirapan ngayon magbayad ng utang. Tuloy na tuloy yan. Pero maraming problema, Gretchen, maraming problema. And ang pinakaklarong manifestation ng problemang yan, ng napakaraming mga problemang yan, yung hindi nakakabayad ng utang. Kasi ang ibig sabihin, kapag hindi ka nakakabayad ng utang, hindi ka kumikita. Di ba? And kawawa naman sila. No, kawawa naman sila kung gano'n. So, we are trying to address these problems one by one. No? For example, one major issue there is the supply of these vehicles. There are roughly, I think, 30 plus accredited suppliers, no? Because of the standards, because they've been accredited by the government. We have to open that up. Because a lot of these suppliers, unfortunately, have supplied vehicles that right now no longer are running. Because they ran for 6, 8, 10 months, and now there is no service, there are no parts.
May walang maintenance.
Yes. So, syempre, umutang ka,
Hindi pa gumagana.
5 years to pay,
Oo.
after 8 months, nakatenga na lang, paano ka makakabayad ng utang mo? So, we need to fix that problem. And it is a supply problem. It is a supply. So the solution to a supply problem is to open up the supply. So my question when I was reviewing this, bakit hindi tayo ba't hindi sila pwedeng bumili sa Toyota, sa Mitsubishi, sa Nissan, sa BYD? Di ba? Ba't hindi sila pwedeng bumili doon? Di ba? So that's one way of trying to address that. And that also addresses the financing problem because if you can buy from a Toyota, from a Mitsubishi, from a BYD, who, by the way, supply at much cheaper cost. The costs right now are anywhere between 2.3 to 2.8 million. I have seen offers from other suppliers, half of that.
Mga local, mga 1 milyon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 1 milyon
Si
lang.
former Governor Chavit Singson, meron siya. Hindi siya accredited, pero meron siyang e-jeep. 1.3 million lang. And if you go
But
to...
are you still looking to phase out the old jeepney? I guess that is the...
I think we really have to.
Hindi ba yun ang marka ng natin?
No,
Identity?
but kaya nga tuwan-tuwa ako dun sa planta ni
Oo.
former Governor Chavit. Kasi siya, jeepney,
Okay.
pero electric vehicle siya. No? So it's clean, it's more efficient, no? Mas mura. So I think that's one way, no, of trying to address these problems. There are other ways, but we will try to solve them one by one kasi ang dami talagang problema.
Itong termino po ninyo ay katulad ng show ko na wala nang konti lang ang
Wala nang
oras,
oras.
no, para mapag-usapan
Oo
lahat ng
nga eh.
problema. Pero bilang panghuli na lang, in your 3 years, what would be your single marker of success that you'd be happy to leave with, the DOTR with?
I think two things. No, first, I think following the president's directives, we really have to address the small things that people suffer through and go through on a daily basis. If we can fix the lines, if we can fix, making sure that there are no more fixers in LTO, that you can get a license without going through a fixer anymore because it's so easy to get a license. It's so easy to get your vehicle registered. It's so easy to get your plate number on time, without having to pay an additional 1,000, 2,000 pesos. But at the same time, make sure that these big ticket projects at least are substantially completed in 3 years. I think that's more than enough already to pass the baton, as they say, to the next person.
When will the
who's
subway
going to
be
sit.
done?
Our estimate is probably 2032. That's our estimate. But hopefully we can have 1 or 2 stations maybe before the end of the president's term.
So if you're able to make transportation more commuter-friendly,
Yeah.
okay ka na.
It's not going to happen in 3 years, Gretchen, but at least the beginnings of that, hopefully.
All right.
Thank
And
you
that
so much.
requires a lot of political will and resources at your disposal. We wish you good luck.
Thank you. We'll try our best.
Oh,
We'll try our
maraming
best.
salamat. We have Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Vince Dizon, joining us this morning. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name's Gretchen Hall. We are One News, all sides, all the time.